students breathe down your neck. That is the block party.
Hudson finishes off Kentucky.
Purdue gets to celebrate. They take down number 3.
And the Boilers have done it. They advance to the Sweet 16 for the 5th time.
Welcome back to the Dig City Podcast, brought to you by Franciscan Health, the official medical provider of Purdue Athletics. I'm Corey Palm. He's head coach Dave Shondell, and coach, kind of a roller coaster week with home opener, a home Big Ten opener against Penn State, and then you hit the road against a top 20 Minnesota team. Let's go ahead and start with the Penn State match. Briefly, about a week ago, the Nittany Lions came into Beelan Court, and it didn't go well for the Boilermakers.
It went real well for Penn State.
It did.
I thought. I was very impressed with the way they came in and took the match right to us. We were clearly flat-footed, and I can put that right on our coaching staff, right on our leadership. We weren't prepared to play. Obviously we tried to get people ready to play, and we knew it was going to be a gigantic match to start league play, but Penn State was just too good on that night, and we didn't respond very well. I mean, obviously it got a little bit better as the match went on. We got smoked the first set, and then the second 2 sets were relatively competitive, but you get swept at home by a team you've beaten twice the year before, which was part of their motivation, I'm sure. And so it was not a good way to start our season. We had lots of conversations after that match was over. Before really the next 24 hours, there were a lot of talks. And I'm not somebody, Corey, that spends a lot of time after a match talking to our team. I don't think you can really get a good picture of what happened very easily until you look at it on, as we like to say, tape or film, or in this case it's called volumetrics, which is the product that we use. But I had plenty to say after that match, and I felt like it was time to clarify a few of my thoughts. And the good news is that after that we had 7 of our players schedule a meeting with me.
With you?
With me.
As a group?
No, individually.
Okay.
Some of them there was a twosome.
Okay.
But mostly individuals. And so, you feel like, okay, at least we have their attention at this point in time. How are these meetings going to go? And they went really well, because it was them coming in and saying, hey, this program is really, really a big part of who I am. I want to do the right thing. How can I help? How can I make things better? What do I need to do to help us get back on the right track? So that gave me an opportunity to share, some ideas with each of those individuals on what I thought they could do, because there are things that we can all do.
Sure, yeah.
And so at least I felt like, okay, we got a chance. We got players that do care, and were disappointed as I was with the performance. And how do we get back on the right track? And fortunately, we had, 2.5 really good days of training and watching film and making preparations. And, we go to Minnesota, which, if you've tracked our record in the last 22 years, it's been a very difficult place for us to win matches. But we go up there and play a team that has beaten Texas on that floor, a team that had just beaten Wisconsin on that floor. And we play a tremendous match. Yeah. We looked totally connected. Where we looked discombobulated against Penn State, we looked totally connected. So it's just amazing. And I told our team when we got back and we're in the airport and they're ready to go their separate ways on Saturday night, I said it's amazing when they came up with intercollegiate sports many, many, many years ago, that did they really have an idea that this was how it might work? Yeah. That it is productive. It does teach people how to come together and how to go from a terrible moment and regroup and figure out how they can get better as a team. And that's why people, if you graduate from any college for that matter, and you've played collegiate athletics and you've been through the wars and the battles that people have to go through, people want to hire you. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to hire you because you know how to get back on your feet. and you know how to deal with so many different things. So I thought that was interesting, and I was just thankful that we got the split. It was a really, I mean, I'm not sure who had a tougher weekend than we did to have to open up the Big Ten season with probably two of the top three teams in the league over the last 5-10 years. It was us. I would have thought maybe we would win the one at home and not win the one on the road, but it was reversed. It doesn't matter. You're 1-1.
Get the split.
You're 1-1, and you've learned a few things about your team and who we are. And now again we start again with the next week, week 2. We go to Northwestern in a little bit, and we'll play them Friday evening, and then we have Michigan State back at home on Sunday.
And we will we'll preview those matches a little bit down the line. Talking about Minnesota specifically, here's how good a week they had. They beat Wisconsin, like you said, and then in a 5-set loss to Purdue, they still gained 4 spots in this week's ABCA poll. Minnesota from 16th up to 12th after splitting those 2 matches. Your Boilermakers held steady at number 10, which probably feels about right for where you're at this point in the season.
Yeah, I'd put us at 10 in my poll, but Minnesota is legitimate. Mm-hmm. They have some really, really good pin offense. They bring it from the pins with good arms. The middles are more blocking middles, but they're really, really athletic. Have a setter that's been there for 5 years, starter for 5 years. The libero was really good, and they've had great success. The only matches they've lost this year have been 5 setters to teams ranked in the top 20 in the country, and those were on the road. They went down to a tournament down, I think it was somewhere in Texas, and they lost to TCU and Baylor. But outside of that, they've done some really, really good things. They lost a 5-setter to Stanford, who's ranked, I think, 4th or 5th in the country. So they've had great competition, and they've played very, very well. They're going to probably play 4 more 5-set matches than anybody in America this year, the way it's going. But Keegan Cook has, in his second year, Keegan was the head coach at Washington. And when Hugh McCutcheon retired from coaching a couple of years ago, Keegan Cook, and I thought it was kind of an interesting move. I mean, Washington's a great job.
Great program, yeah.
But he took the job at Minnesota. Last year was kind of a up and down ordeal. I think there were some things that were going on there that he wasn't aware of when he took the job, but now he's righted the ship, and they're going to be really hard to beat. I don't care home or on the road. They're going to be really, really hard to beat, and I think they'll finish in the top 5 in this league.
That's what we need, another Big Ten volleyball program that's going to be really hard to beat going forward, right?
Yeah.
One thing before we get away from last weekend that we haven't really talked about specifically, a point of emphasis last week when we sat here and had this conversation was serving tougher, because so much of your offense starts with that. So much of your defense starts with that. 17 aces on Saturday. Have you ever seen a team dialed in that well collectively? And we've seen, one-off great performances by individual servers, but you had a whole bunch of people show up.
Yeah, the answer would be no. That was the best serving performance that I've seen from a Purdue team in the 22 years that I've been here. It has been something that we've been focused on for over a year, to be honest with you, as far as getting better. You just don't know how good their arms are going to be from year to year. You know who your starters are going to be and who's probably going to go back there to the service line, and you feel like they ought to be pretty good serving. But last year we were not. Right. We did not put enough pressure on opponents. This year, starting out with, we were not. And I go back to what I've talked to you about before, is this point scoring percentage. So if you're our first server and you go back, every time you serve, how many times do we actually score? Okay, I mean, they don't side out. We actually score a point, which is harder. The team that is receiving serve has a better chance of scoring a point. Yeah. But you're still looking for somebody to be 55 to 65% point scoring. That's where you like to be. That would be really, really good. Right. if you can accomplish that. Over 50 is gravy. We had not been real good, but we're getting better. We've made some changes in who goes into the rotation. I thought in this particular match, Raven Colvin, who has our toughest serve, was our first server. She went back and served missiles right out of the gate, okay? and nobody wanted anything to do with them on their side of the net. I think she got maybe 2 aces in her first exchange. And from that point on, I felt like they were back on their heels, and they were trying to cover for people that weren't as good at passers. They were trying to show people in their pattern, but then move them out at the last second. And I thought it was just contagious that all of a sudden, Julia Kane starts ripping balls. Ryan McAleer, who's only about 5'4", maybe 5'5", to give her credit, serves 6 aces as a freshman. I thought Chloe served it pretty well. I mean, I felt like we were putting a lot of pressure on them, and that was a difference in the game because the game was close.
It was.
And it was, I believe, 10-8 the last time Julia Kane went back to serve, and she rips 3 consecutive aces to give us 5 points of separation in a 15-point game, and that was it.
Yep.
That made all the difference, and just great to get out of Minnesota with a win after that really disappointing loss to Penn State, and to put us at 1-1, where really we're right where we need to be moving forward.
That's great to hear. Congrats on that big win and the return home. We will take a break. We'll be back to talk about the week ahead after this.
The Dig City Podcast is brought to you by Franciscan Health, the official medical provider of Purdue Athletics. At Franciscan, we are inspiring health. Now back to the show.
All right, another road then home weekend. Last week was a home then road split, travel split. You start off Friday night at Northwestern, and then return home Sunday evening actually against Michigan State. Let's talk about the game in Evanston with the Wildcats. I know, as is typical, we'll count on our Chicago Boilermakers to show up and give us a home crowd feel.
Yeah. It'll be the 10th match in 11 tries on the road for this team.
That's mind-boggling, but absolutely. Yeah.
10th and 11, because we had those 8 in a row on the road to end non-conference play, and then away or home, away. So my math, I think, is accurate. It's easy math, I think. So I think I've got it right. Northwestern has always been trouble for our team. They feel like there's some rivalry there. They've never felt like they couldn't beat Purdue, and we've had a tough time, including last year. The night after we had played Penn State to a 15-13 match in the 5th, and keep in mind that was a team that won the Big Ten championship and finished runner-up in the country. In our gym, we play them to 15-13. Northwestern rolls in the next day or maybe a day later. I can't remember.
Same weekend.
I think it was back-to-back nights. So we play Northwestern, and they're not supposed to be very, very good that year. And they had a big left side hitter put on a clinic against us that we couldn't stop her. This is after we win the first 2 handily, okay? And then all of a sudden we ran out of gas in some way. Could not stop the big left side hitter. And we lose to a team that finished, I think, in the bottom, 4 or 5 in the conference. So that was a really disappointing loss a year ago, but yet one of only 4 we had all season in the Big Ten. Okay, which is interesting how that played out. But anyway, you hope that you learn from everything, and the fact that Northwestern plays us tough, I think, should have our attention. They've got a new coach. They have a lot of new players. They have some back from a year ago, but they beat Maryland at Maryland, and Maryland is a team I thought was going to be pretty good this year because they had about every player back from last year, including a really good setter. But Northwestern did beat Maryland in 5, and so I know that they're playing with a little bit of confidence, and I think it will be a tough match for us to go up there.
Yeah, the Wildcats 1-1 in the Big Ten, just 3-7 overall, but like you said, feeling good after getting a Big Ten win that opening weekend. Then you will pile back in the buses, and I assume you're not flying.
No,
okay.
we're on a bus going up there. It's it can be 3 hours.
Yeah.
Especially if we're leaving here at 3 o'clock our time, 2 o'clock their time. We might get into a little bit of traffic up in Chicago. But then we'll practice tonight, watch a lot of tape tonight, and then have a full day of getting ready on Friday.
Yep. Then head back home Friday night after the win, and get ready for the Spartans. Quick turnaround for Michigan State coming in.
Yeah, and again, Michigan State I think they have an army of players. I think they've got 21, 22 players on their roster right now. They've done a lot of moving players in. They hit the portal probably as hard as anybody in our league, and so they've got a lot of new people on that squad. And I watched them last week. I know that they lost to Michigan in 3 at Michigan.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that it was a 3-0 sweep because I think Michigan State's better than that. And then I know they went to Penn State on, was that this week or last week? I think it was last week. Last week they go to Penn State, who had drilled us, and they play Penn State much closer than we do. They go 4, they win the first. The fourth set is 25-23 Penn State. So obviously they got enough talent to go into Happy Valley and play the third-ranked team in the country right down to the wire. Yeah. So they have our attention. We had a tough match with them here last year. We ended up winning that. I think it might have been in 4 or 5, and then played very well up there late in the season and got out of there in pretty short time. But we know that will be a real battle. They play with a lot of confidence, a lot of belief, and we've got to figure out with both these teams who they are, because they've got so many new players. And this year, most of these teams, there's 17 teams that you're going to play. 14 of those you only play one time. Where it used to be you were playing more teams twice than you were playing once. Yeah. Now you're only playing 3 teams once, and that's going to be Indiana, Penn State, and Rutgers. Those are the 3 teams that we play twice. So they try to balance it out.
Right.
And in our case, I think they've done a pretty fair job with that. But this, play these teams one time, so you better be well prepared for them because you don't get a second shot at them.
That's so tough. When you talk about, you're doing a scout for that match, it's only going to help you in that one match. It's not going to come back into play 2 weeks later, for instance. Plus, you see a roster that has, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 newcomers because of the portal or freshmen. Or it's just so much different than what it used to be, where you knew around about what system a team ran, sort of what they might be throwing at you.
Which on the other side of that is that we can't look too much like who we've been in the past, even though we're putting on, 5 or 6 of the same players on the floor. I absolutely feel like we're a different team, and every week we're trying to do some things differently to make us harder to defend.
Interesting.
From things like that. And as I've made it really, really clear, last year we were too left side oriented, and everybody knew it. We were just really good with those 2 left sides. And even Raven hit about 280 last year, and now she's hitting about 460. Okay, Raven was 280 a year ago.
That's amazing.
Now she's 460.
Yeah, with about the same amount of attempts.
Yeah. And so she's making us harder to defend. Kenna Woolard is making us harder to defend. She's blown my mind.
Yeah.
Just where I've seen her go in the last 2 weeks, just with getting more confidence and more reps with the setter, and feeling good about what she's doing out there. And then Lourdes Myers is playing at a higher level this week than I've seen her all year.
Good.
Just really getting after the ball, and we're trying to really force the ball to those players when they're running behind the setter, because we've got to balance out the playing field.
Right.
We can't let people defend just half the net. They have to defend the whole net. And then all of a sudden, then when the ball starts going back to those left side hitters, whether they're at the net or coming out of the back row, then their opportunities are better.
Yeah. Watching the broadcast on Saturday from Minnesota, the broadcast crew did a great job. They were marveling at, Minnesota was sometimes throwing a 3-person block at Raven, and it wasn't matter. It didn't matter because she was so dialed in, and that's a great example of diversifying your offense, getting more attacks in the middle, opening things up across the board. And I know that's been a point of emphasis. How's Taylor doing running the offense?
She's making very steady progress. Yeah. And, being a former setter and recognizing the value of that position, as a head coach, you're going to be really critical, may not be the right word, but you're going to evaluate that position very closely. And I work with Taylor a lot, okay? She's delivering the ball better. She's taking the information in in preparation for a game plan and handling it better. It's hard because she knows that we have, really 3 tremendous all Big Ten tier players, but yet the plan is to make sure we're spreading the offense around.
Yeah.
So how and when do you do that? And the hope is that the opponent's not going to know how and when you do that. And so when you have a young setter who kind of is free-spirited, then nobody really knows exactly how that might be done. And at the end of the day, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's good. But there are certain times where, you know what, you better feed your horses because that's why they're here. And, we feel like we've got them. And another player that I thought has had a great week this week that has not really been playing at a level I think that she feels comfortable with is Chloe Chacoin.
Okay.
And Chloe's got an absolute great arm. And I think she was just too narrow in her shot selection. And so we've really worked hard with her of widening her range of shots. And plus, we're trying to get more backcourt presence as well. But she's had a great week.
Good.
And so there's nothing wrong with her. Okay. I mean, I think she was about 260 last year, and she's around 225. And it's just because I think that, whatever reason, good competition. Part
Very
of it,
good
we played
competition.
great competition this year early. But I think you'll see those numbers start to balloon.
Speaking of that great competition, we had a fan reach out, a loyal viewer of the show. I'll let him remain nameless, but I'm going to go and ask his question. That good competition that you faced, the 3 straight road weeks, the loading up on top 10 opponents.
Right.
Have you seen that? Did you see that affect performance at all? Sometimes teams can get a little bit worn down if it's one battle after another battle after another battle, or has the team responded in a way that you were hoping they would?
I think some of that remains to be seen as the season develops. We're trying to be very careful with not being in the gym too much, but yet one of the things I told those 2 left side hitters is as we want to be careful with them, that we don't have them doing too many jumps. But I thought early on we were limiting them too much, okay, between trying to develop our offense in other areas and being concerned about that we didn't want them to hit a wall at some point in time during the season, that we limited them too much. And so I think we've opened up the playbook a little bit here lately to where we've done more drills where we're getting them more reps with the setter, improving that connection, developing more shots that they feel comfortable with. So, I mean, at this point in time, no, we haven't seen anything except the fact that we know what it's like to play good teams.
Yeah.
The 3 losses we've had, I think, have been to the number 3 ranked Penn State, number 5 ranked Creighton, and 7 or 8 ranked Kansas. Yep. And so those are good teams. But if you want to get where you need to go, you've got to begin to beat those teams.
Yeah, and you can't lose sight of the fact that you've got number 9 ranked Wisconsin coming up. You've got a game at number 11 Oregon coming up. It's not going to get easier. This is Big Ten volleyball, and it's going to be.
And our front half is tougher in the Big Ten.
That's true.
Our front half in the Big Ten is tougher than our back half. So we're gonna, you just take it one at a time. I don't want anybody to get ahead of themselves, including me. I just want to look, okay, our next match is at Northwestern. Let's be as well prepared for them. And when we get to a point on paper behind the scenes that we're pretty good there, then we can turn a little bit to Michigan State because you have to be ahead of the game a little bit. You can't wait until Saturday to start getting ready for
coaches have to be ahead of the game.
Right.
Yeah. That Northwestern game, let me pull up the start time. It is at 8 o'clock Eastern on Big Ten Plus, and that game Sunday night. I keep saying Sunday night because playing on Sunday night is a new thing.
Is it Sunday night?
Yeah, 7:30 start Sunday night against Michigan State.
Crazy time for Sunday night.
It is, and that's going to be on Big Ten Network proper. So that was one of those slight change to start times that TV dictates sometimes, and you do it to get the eyeballs, and you do it to get that national audience. But that'll be a little bit different.
Well, it just makes for a long day. You're sitting around waiting to play that match, and but it will all work out. Like you said, for years and years and years, volleyball was begging for TV time. And so you can't complain now when they're going to put you at prime time. Prime time. okay, across America, to play a match that a lot of people will be watching. So yeah, we'll be excited for it.
Good luck this weekend, Coach. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you, Corey.